They say their name, you shake their hand, and then, 2 seconds later, it is completely erased from your mind. It is not early dementia. Your brain is just surviving. You stand there smiling politely while a chaotic internal panic begins. You search the archives. Nothing. Just an empty void where a human identity belongs. How could you forget something you heard literally 3 seconds ago? You immediately diagnose yourself. Cognitive decline, a broken memory, pure, unfiltered social incompetence. But that is a lie your anxiety tells you. Your biological hard drive is not corrupted. It is working exactly as intended, because in that precise moment of a greeting, you are under threat. To your primal nervous system, a social introduction is a survival performance. Welcome to the next in line effect. A neurobiological glitch. When you know it is almost your turn to speak, your brain stops listening. It hoards all your mental energy to rehearse your own upcoming introduction. Hi, Your auditory processing system is essentially muted to save processing power. The name wasn't forgotten. It was never actually recorded in the first place. Your own anticipation literally severs the connection to the outside world. The cost of remembering to perform is temporary blindness to the present moment. Your brain isn't a flawless digital recorder. It's an organic machine, and it is fiercely protecting you. Let's decode the architecture of the ultimate social glitch. Society has conditioned you to feel profound guilt for this specific glitch. You assume it means you are rude, self-centered, or just slow. We attach a massive moral weight to a purely mechanical failure of attention. You label yourself as having a fundamentally broken memory system. But to fix this, we must shatter the illusion of how memory actually works. Cognitive psychology divides memory into 2 distinct gates: encoding the data and retrieving it. Retrieval is like sending a crane down into a deep storage vault. When you forget where you left your keys, that's retrieval failure. The information is in your brain, but the pathway to it is blocked. But the next inline effect is fundamentally different. It's worse. This is an encoding failure. The data never even made it through the front door. You can't retrieve a memory that doesn't exist. The brain's recording equipment was entirely shut off. Why? Because human attention is a strictly finite resource. You cannot multitask cognitive survival. The mental load of preparing your own introduction crushes your capacity. You enter a dual task scenario. You have to listen and you have to plan. When forced to choose, your brain will always prioritize internal planning. The phonetic sound of their name hits your eardrum as pure, meaningless noise. It fails to undergo the semantic processing required to convert it into a long-term memory. All your mental energy is being consumed by the anticipation of performing. This isn't a distraction. It is a complete cognitive hijack. To understand why your brain locks down, we must look at the neurological architecture. To truly understand this glitch, we have to map the architecture of the social brain. Deep inside your frontal lobe sits the Medial Prefrontal Cortex, or mPFC. It acts as the master director of your social interactions, constantly processing human data. It rapidly scans strangers, calculating their social status, hierarchical position, and potential threat level. But crucially, this exact same region also manages your own self-concept. During a simple introduction, these 2 distinct functions violently collide. The mPFC has to process the other person while simultaneously preparing the self. Faced with this extreme processing conflict, your brain makes a ruthless evolutionary choice. It flips a massive internal switch, turning the spotlight entirely onto your own performance. Because historically, a flawed social performance could lead to ostracization, exile, and ultimately death. To guarantee your survival, the brain hijacks your endocrine system. Your adrenal glands instantly flood your bloodstream with the primary stress hormone, cortisol. This triggers an acute, hidden state known as social evaluation threat. Your body is literally bracing for a physical attack that does not exist. High levels of cortisol directly and aggressively sabotage the memory creation process. It temporarily paralyzes the synaptic plasticity required to consolidate new explicit memories. This chemical flood causes a severe psychological phenomenon known as perceptual narrowing. Your brain develops extreme tunnel vision, obsessing only over the most prominent immediate danger. And in that moment, the immediate danger is your upcoming speech, not the handshake. The phonetic sound of the other person's name is ruthlessly filtered out. It is discarded as low-priority background noise to conserve processing power for yourself. It is a calculated sacrifice. But why are names specifically so vulnerable? Why doesn't this happen when someone tells you their profession or their hobby? To answer that, we have to look at the fragile architecture of the human vocabulary. Think of your working memory as an incredibly tiny, brightly lit desk. It is not the massive, infinite storage vault of your long-term memory. It is a temporary workspace that can only hold a few conscious items at once. Enter a cognitive phenomenon known as proactive interference. This is when your current active thoughts aggressively block new information from entering.
Smile.
While you
Say
shake
hi.
hands,
Don't mess
your
up.
tiny
Say
desk
hi.
is
Don't mess
completely
up.
saturated
Smile.
by your own internal rehearsal. When they say their name, the phonetic audio data tries to land. But there is physically no cognitive space left on the desk. So, the fragile data of their name simply shatters. But why a name? Why not their face or their occupation? Because proper nouns are what cognitive psychologists call arbitrary labels. They have no inherent meaning. This introduces the famous Baker/Baker paradox. Let's break it down. If someone tells you they are a baker, your brain instantly connects a semantic web. It links to bread, ovens, early mornings, and aprons. It hooks in. But if someone tells you their last name is Baker, there are no hooks. It is just a fragile, isolated phonetic sound, floating in the void. This fragility is compounded by a massive anatomical mismatch in your skull. Facial recognition is a primal, ancient evolutionary tool managed by the fusiform face area. It scans and logs a human face effortlessly in milliseconds, fully automatically. But name retrieval, that relies on much slower, newly evolved language processing systems. Your brain easily remembers the face, but drops the name. So, how do we hack it? You are not a victim of your own neurobiology. We can actively hack the brain's encoding protocols to bypass the next-in-line effect. There are 3 behavioral interventions you must execute instantly. Step 1. You must forcefully overwrite your own internal speech rehearsal. To do this, you use vocalized repetition. You say their name out loud immediately. By physically speaking, you force your brain to create an auditory feedback loop. This muscular action completely halts the internal rehearsal running in your background. Step 2. Now that the word is in your working memory, anchor it. Because proper nouns lack intrinsic meaning, you must manually create one. This is semantic hooking. You tie the arbitrary sound to an existing visual. If their name is Baker, forcefully imagine them completely covered in flour. Make it intentionally ridiculous. This deep processing moves the data out of the overloaded buffer. But the most powerful neurological intervention requires you to soothe the mPFC itself. Step 3. You must consciously redirect the spotlight of your attention outward. Force yourself to hyper-focus on a specific physical detail of the other person. This external fixation drastically lowers your internal perception of social threat. When the threat drops, the cortisol spike is halted before it can paralyze encoding. Your brain is not a flawless, infinite digital recording device. It is an ancient, metabolically expensive survival engine built for a dangerous social world. Stop misinterpreting your own cognitive biology as a fundamental personal failure. The erasure of a name is simply the evolutionary cost of protecting your social status. Now that you know the rules of the hardware, it is time to hack the software.